All right, now we are live. Wow, it has been probably a full week since I have even done a Google Hangout, but I'm back and have some interesting things to touch on. But just want to take you guys up to speed on what has been going on lately. So, even the reason why I even titled this Hangout, the particular title I titled it, is because a couple of days ago I was in a Google Hangout with somebody who is known around the community for thinking they know about things they don't know. I'm not going to say names, Trump empiricism, but with that being the case, I was in his room talking about his favorite subject. We all know that his thing, his niche, is talking about why people shouldn't accept evolution. Me personally, we all know that evolution has as much evidence for it as general relativity. So it's not really anything that scientists in the field even argue about. But being that this person is not a scientist in the field, well, then I guess we should make an exception, right? So I go into True's room and we go from theological arguments for why evolution isn't sound. Then we move on to arguments as far as different evidences in nature of evolution or for evolution. And True says we have not seen anything in nature that has given us an example of nature adding some type of new information. And then he says, give me one example. So, being that he didn't even really define what he meant when he said information, we don't see any new information being produced by nature. We don't see anything in nature. Uh, we don't see nature producing anything new. Um, being that he did ask for at least one example, I gave him one, and I think he was so taken aback because it's not really an example you would normally hear when you're talking about biology, but because the fields are definitely related, it definitely um, should answer his question. And we see new information being, you could say, pumped out by nature every time we look at star formation. When we look at stellar nucleosynthesis, we see new elements being created, new information being created. Um, and when I said that, I don't think at first he actually knew how to respond. And I don't think he's ever even heard of stellar nucleosynthesis because he pronounced it wrong. He says stellar nucleosynthesis. That is not how you pronounce it. So every element on the periodic table, except for I think the last 26, which are man-made, every element on the periodic table, except for those, are naturally occurring elements that we can see being created, formed in the hearts of stars. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, boron, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen. I think I mixed them up. Nitrogen, oxygen. Uh, those elements, at one time, they didn't exist. And due to the nuclear fusion in the hearts of stars, they came to be. At one point in the early universe, all there was were hydrogen atoms and I think some helium, and they fused together and they made lithium. And so that would be an example of something in nature making new information. No intelligence required. And when I say no intelligence required, I'm not saying no divine agent required. I am specifically taking a tongue in cheek towards intelligent design because the intelligent designer could be aliens. The intelligent designer could be other humans in another galaxy pumping out the information so that we can have stellar nucleosynthesis, or the laws for stellar nucleosynthesis that we see today. So that was one of the examples I gave him. And he says, no, that is not an example of nature creating new information, which he once again never defined when he meant when he said new information. But then I asked him, I said, so a new element being created is not an example of new information. Then he goes on and he moves the goalpost even farther, and he says, you're bringing up stars when we're talking about biology. Who does that? Do you understand how weird that is? I think, if I'm correct, I think he may have said those fields are not even related. To which I responded, is your body not made up of hydrogen, helium, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon? Are you not a carbon-based life form? Because if you paid attention in science class, all of the carbon in the universe comes from the hearts of stars. You're made of stardust. So it definitely is related, because without all of those elements forming into heavier elements over billions of years, we wouldn't be here. So I don't know if he's ever heard that before. He may have. I don't know, but that was what happened over the course of the last couple of days. Even one of my favorite quotes here from Carl Sagan: the nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff. So it's really weird when you have this guy True who goes around parading himself as the know-it-all science guy. Me, I am in no way an expert on this stuff. Taught some physics about 2 years ago as a science teacher, not scientist, not professor, not somebody in the field doing experiments. I studied the material, taught it to my high school students, and that's about it. So definitely not anybody who claims to be an expert in the field, but True, he thinks every doctor is wrong, every professor is wrong, every astrophysicist is wrong, and if you don't accept intelligent design, you are incorrect. But for somebody to claims to know so much, I'm actually surprised that he didn't know this. And by the way, by him saying, no, that's not an example of nature producing new information. So, do you mean to tell me that new electrons and protons being created from nuclear fusion is not new information? You have new protons that make up that element. If you change the proton count, you have a whole new element. And then these elements are heavier elements than before. They're obviously an example of nature creating or producing new information. Now, whether you want to say God did it, or whether you want to believe that God did it or God didn't do it, that's not science. Don't really care. That's what we see. That's what I can show you. If you have a telescope that is big enough, you can see it. We see star formation. We even see after stars form and they go through the main sequence, then they blow up afterwards in the supernovae. We actually see heavy elements from those collapsing stars. Then they come back together again and make new stars, or sometimes they can make planets. That's the story of our planet. But they definitely are related. They are not the same, but they definitely have a common branch, you could say. We even have a field in astrophysics called astrobiology. I mean, they definitely are related fields. Which, by the way, astrophysics even proclaims that evolution is a fact, uh, or common descent is a fact. Um, just for the fact that we have hydrogen and helium. I'm sorry, we have hydrogen well, any element in us at all. It goes to basically show that our origins are in stars, and we can test that because if we didn't have the same elements in us that are in stars, well, then we would know that our origins definitely come from somewhere else. But just for the fact that we have these elements in our bodies at all, it definitely shows that we came from those distant stars. Um, but also, you can apply the same reasoning to just about uh, anything else on the planet. We have in our DNA, we have the gene to produce chicken egg yolk. Now, why would God put that in there? Why would God just do something like that to trick us? I don't think so. Just for the fact that we have chicken egg yolk in our DNA, and DNA is only your DNA is only inherited, or DNA is only I'm getting my words mixed up. You can only get DNA from heredity. It's only inherited through heredity. There you go. And so anything in our DNA tells a story. If you go back far enough, we would actually be able to predict when these genes were actually, because they cross paths. They tell a story pretty much, and we can make predictions about when these genes were introduced into our genome. And just for the fact that we find these genes in our body, like for example, we had a gene of, well, actually we do. We actually share some similarity with mice in our DNA. Not to say that we descended from mice, but for the fact that we have some of their DNA in our genome, if we go back far enough, we both have a common ancestor that we both descended from if you go back far enough in the family tree. It's not that the mice gave birth to humans or humans gave birth to the mice. We both share a common ancestor. And if you go back far enough, even before humans or animals or anything on this planet, as far as living organisms existed, the elements that make up our bodies, the elements that make up every living organism, the elements that make up anything on the planet, before this planet even existed, you rewind the tape of life, before this planet arose. And if you keep on going back far enough and going back far enough and going back far enough, the first place where we can track the origins of these elements are in stars, which is hydrogen. And I think it's like 70% of your body is made up of water, something around there. So we definitely can say with confidence that those hydrogen atoms came from the first stars. It's pretty amazing, and it may actually be pretty hard to accept, but that's what the evidence says, and that's pretty much all I can even say about that. But it was really interesting to see that conversation go in that direction, being that I don't really like biology. Big astrophysics fan, big physics fan. Don't really like biology, but they definitely are related fields. And I wonder why nobody has dropped in yet. I did put the link in the Great Debate community. At least I think I did. Yep, I did. So if anybody wants to drop in, be my guest. But what else has been going on? Oh, with that being the case, there was a talk yesterday, I think. Yeah, it had to be yesterday, where Steve and his co-host, or is Steve the co-host? I don't know. Steve and his partner. I'll just be safe and say Steve and his what do you call it? His radio partner on Non Sequitur. They actually had a really good show yesterday. They had a show where it was like atheist versus theist or something like that, and they had to answer certain questions given by the audience. And one of the questions somebody asked, which actually relates to physics, is why did God have to send Jesus to die? Why did God demand some type of sacrifice? Um, couldn't have God did it some other way, where Jesus didn't die for humanity, where Jesus didn't die for sins, where it didn't have to be the way that it did? And you know, behind closed doors, General and I, we always talk about stuff like this. And actually, even though it is a spiritual question, the answer, at least General and I think, actually is very related to the physics of the universe. The physics of the universe, of course, we know is the way it is. But why? Why are the physics of the universe the way that they are? And why did God wait 13.8 billion years, or well, 4 billion years at first, so he could create the planet and all of this stuff? And for human beings to come onto the scene, how come God just didn't do it instantly? Why did God even do it this way at all? Why did God even, why? The answer is right in front of our faces. It all has to do with physics. Um, Number one, it made sense for God to wait over billions of years of stellar evolution and cosmic evolution, because well, it takes that long for all of those elements to develop so that us human beings can come about. Um, and that was the best possible way for God to have done it. Um, it takes a long time for those stars to cook and for them to form different elements over a long period of time. So why wouldn't God wait that long? If he didn't, well, then all of the elements that make life uh, able to live on the planet, they wouldn't exist. But could God have done it any other way? Probably. I mean, he could have, but it probably wouldn't have worked. So the way I believe that the way the laws of physics are put up today, the way that everything occur right now, this was the best possible way God could have done it out of all the other, whoever knows how many different scenarios that could have happened. But this way was the best possible way. I also think that God purposely made our universe. He actually made space time for the purpose of redeeming us human beings. One example we see about this, I think, is in scripture where Satan and his fallen angels and stuff like that, um, they can't be saved. They can't be redeemed. I think the reason they can't be redeemed is because they live outside of our universe. They live outside of space and time. I think that's a very important thing that we, at least some people in the church, should touch on. Um, with all of the different discoveries and stuff we're finding out in science, a lot of this stuff um, definitely gives us more insight onto the Bible and onto our belief as far as Christianity goes. I think that Christianity helps make sense of the philosophy of the science even more. So we all would agree on the sciences and stuff like that. But we definitely had different interpretations of what it means. And I think when it comes to Christianity, I think Christianity can make sense of those different scientific discoveries even better as far as the philosophy behind it goes. With that being the case, so I think God created space time to for the main purpose of redeeming us human beings. Um, if human beings did not live in this universe, and let's say we sinned or we did something terrible outside of the cosmos, I think our destiny will be sealed because outside of our universe, outside of space and time, is eternity. I think it could be that if you sin in eternity, you can't be redeemed. So Satan and his fallen angels are unredeemable. I think that's why he's so upset with us humans, etc., because God loved us so much that he created us in certain circumstances where he can redeem us, and Satan didn't have that opportunity. Now, moving on. Why is the universe the way it is, the laws of physics and stuff like that? I think that, well, General and I, we both came to this conclusion, but remember how I was saying a couple minutes ago that everything basically can be traced back to stars. And this actually goes back to like extraterrestrial life. I know a lot of intelligent designers, they won't say that they believe God is the intelligent designer if you're talking to them in like an open forum, but behind closed doors, they will tell you that they all believe this intelligent designer is all their personal God. Although the intelligent designer could just be like an alien, right? But if aliens do exist, I know that there's been a lot of different conversations with a lot of different Christians or religious people saying if aliens do exist, they can't be saved because they're not human. Actually, I would disagree. And here's why I would disagree. We can actually take the fact that aliens are the creators of the universe just for the sheer fact that if aliens do exist, they by default will have to be made of the same stuff we're all made out of. We're all carbon-based life forms. So if aliens existed, they would be carbon-based life form too. And what does that mean? That means if they're carbon-based life forms, that means that they're not older than stars. The oldest thing in existence that we know about is a star all the way out on the cosmic horizon, and it's about 13.4 billion years old. That is probably one of the oldest things in existence. And if those aliens, of course, can't surpass that in age, and also if they're made out of the same stuff as those stars, they can't predate those stars. So we can take aliens being the creator of us off the table. That will falsify that. But we also, in a way, if aliens existed, we would be related to those aliens too. If aliens exist, they technically, in a weird way, thanks to astrophysics and chemistry, they would be related to us. But the best part about all of this is all of the cosmos, in a sense, is related to each other because everything is made out of the same stuff, just different combination of the same thing over and over again. Why is this so important? Okay, so God makes space-time. He makes space-time specifically for the purposes of redeeming us human beings. Okay. God picks a specific place and time for Jesus to come, and Jesus, he lives a perfect life, and throughout this timeline, he lays down his life and he sacrifices himself on the cross. And the Bible says that Jesus redeemed he didn't just redeem humans, Jesus redeemed the cosmos. And here's the point. If all of the cosmos is not all interconnected and all related and all made of the same stuff, then Jesus can't redeem the cosmos all at once, all at the same time. He will have to die over and over and over again to redeem even every atom. But because everything is all interconnected, that was the plan. And the best possible way to make everything all interconnected so that he can redeem everything back to himself is to have the laws of physics set up exactly the way that they're set up now over a course of 13.8 billion years for hydrogen to turn to helium, helium to turn into lithium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, etc., etc. and from each element to come from the element before. If he didn't do it this way, which would had it would have to be the best possible way, then he would not be able to redeem not just humanity, but the cosmos. Because if you read the Bible, it talks about having a new creation. So when God sets the laws of physics up and he, setting up the laws of chemistry and for things to happen the way that they do, this was the best possible way for him to do it. If not, his plan could not have worked. So actually, because of the laws of physics and biology and all of the different fields of sciences that we're just now, finding out and discovering today, without these things, for Christians, we can say that redemption wouldn't even be possible. So that is one reason why Christians should study science more. We need to be thankful for science more, and we need to praise God for science more, because I think without the sciences that we have today that we're discovering, I don't think God will have a way to redeem us. So thank God for being smart enough to make science. So that I think that would be an explanation of why is the universe the way it is, why do things happen, or why did things happen the way that they happen, as far as the whole 13.8 billion years of cosmic life, stuff like that. And that, what I talked about in the beginning, that is what has been going on over the course of the last couple of days with Ronnie and our conversation that we had was really interesting. I wish I actually would have had more time to talk about that as far as redemption and the cosmos and physics. But who knows? Maybe I might write a book about it. General might co-author it. But yes, because nobody else is here, and I've been rambling on and on and on for a long time, I think it is time for me to cut the broadcast. But those are my thoughts. That's what's been going on over the last couple of days. And if you like my little rants, then feel free to comment below. If you don't like it, feel free to comment below. If you're interested, feel free to comment below. And if all hope is lost, comment below. Until next time, good luck. Don't forget to subscribe. If you really were enlightened by this video, share it around. And don't just take my word for everything that I'm saying. Research. All right, guys, until next time, good luck and good night.